Thanks to all of you. I've found this a tremendous event, and I'd like to congratulate everybody who's been involved. I'd like to especially thank our distinguished speakers, who I learnt a good deal from. I'd like to thank Yvette Blount, who is the driving force behind this in our centre at Macquarie University in getting this going. And I think you deserve special credit for your efforts in that regard. I'd also like to thank Megan Nixon for much of the organisation, and there's a number of other people too, but they're the key people. And of course I'd like to thank you, the audience, as well. This topic is really central to the interests of the Centre for Workforce Futures in its own right, but also because it overlaps with a number of other issues which are key concerns of the centre. We've heard a lot of talk about productivity, for example. And can I do a plug here and mention to people that we have a productivity symposium in the city on the 29th of November, and most of you will have got this flyer in your conference material, and if you didn't, come and check with me later and I can provide material. Telework also overlaps with other key issues that the centre focuses on, such as quality of the work environment and employee wellbeing. And if you go to our webpage, you'll see that there's a number of projects in that area, in the area of productivity. It also overlaps with a key concern that we have with climate change and development of sustainable work practices and what's involved there. It seems to me that there's a tremendous overlap in that area, and some speakers have mentioned that in passing. I was reminded when I was listening to some of the speakers of about 10 years ago when I was at the University of Wollongong, which is the site for a major Nortel infrastructure, and it's a research infrastructure, but it's also a major administrative and management part of the Nortel company. And Nortel is a truly internationalised corporation, which does a lot of telework of the kind we had described within the one organisation, such that different functions within Nortel are spread out throughout the world. So at Wollongong, the HR function was based, and it was interesting to listen to the HR manager talk about her day as she talked about how she worked in the Asia Pacific region for the afternoon, then in early evening Western Europe would come online, and then at 2 o'clock Western Canada would come online, and just the amazing work day that involved through telework. In a sense, telework is back to the future. In the Industrial Revolution, there was a tremendous demographic change for most people who had a work site at home or near home into centralised work sites, large factories and large offices. Now we face the potential for changing that again, and the potential can only be overcome, I think, with research and with the education of managers. So where do we go from here? I'd like to suggest that it would be a pity just to have gathered here and then just leave. I'd like to suggest that we maybe should commit to a couple of things, and a couple of things which the centre can certainly support. I know one thing that Yvette's planning is an international conference in this area next year, and I think it would be useful to call upon people to volunteer to Yvette at the end of this to help in organising that and to form a steering committee. And I think that steering committee could not only organise that, but also identify ways of achieving funding support for research, which is something that people mention continuously. And finally, I'd like to suggest, I don't know how the network functions, but I'd like to suggest that the network consider becoming broadly membership-based and develop into a special interest group which could meet via teleconferencing or in physical gatherings like this as well. And I think that might be something useful in getting the message out there. So I'd like to leave you with that as ways that occurred to me might be taken a step further, and to call on volunteers to approach Yvette or myself at the conclusion to join a steering committee to undertake some of that. Thank you.